Currently in Nigeria, only 7 out of 109 senators and 22 of the 360 House of Representatives members are women. In Brazil, women are 52% of the population, 52.5% of the total of voters in the country, but they are less than 15% of the elected representatives. Angela Merkel will leave office as one of modern Germany's longest-serving leaders and a global diplomatic heavyweight. After 16 years at the helm of Europe's biggest economy, Merkel ended military conscription, set Germany on course for a future without nuclear and fossil-fueled power, enabled the legalization of same-sex marriage, introduced a national minimum wage and benefits, encouraging fathers to look after young children, among other things. Back to Brazil, Minister of Women, Family and Human Rights, Damares Alves, said there is real risk in the spread of information which can put the lives of girls at risk. The dangerous information she's talking about are the recommendations of the World Health Organization for safe abortion. The Utrecht Data School, part of the Dutch Cities University, found that 10% of all tweets between October 1st and February 26th of this year aimed at women on Dutch electoral lists contained hateful comments or sexist threats. The Vika Partman, founder of Vote for Women, conducted research among 50 Dutch girls and women that had doubts about a career in politics. She told Euronews they were actually interested to do so, but didn't take the final step. We wanted to know what stopped them, and around 30 mentioned online hate as one of the reasons. Currently, Somalia is holding elections for its upper house and is preparing for elections for its lower house, known as the House of the People. The UN and Somalia's other international partners have been heavily engaged in supporting national efforts to advance the poll, frequently voicing support for greater inclusion of women in the country's political arena. The Taliban have taken over Afghanistan, but there are still forces of opposition attempting to maintain human rights in the country. Many Afghan political leaders, including former President Ashraf Ghani, fled the country, but several female politicians stayed to resist the Taliban on the ground. Hello and welcome. This is Ella Roundtable. This event will be recorded. My pronouns are she, her. We're here to have an open conversation about what is happening around the world through the eyes of our community. We will listen to people of different backgrounds, different cultures, and different opinions, who will discuss topics related to current affairs with our worldview as queer people. Sharing the table with me are Uyoyo Ifode from Nigeria, Laila van Rijswijk from the Netherlands, Ananda Pushta from Brazil, and our special guest, Mariam Amal from Afghanistan. The number of women in politics has increased, but it is not sufficient to fight inequality regarding rights, income, and opportunities. Some elected representatives are positive voices, while others cause steps backwards on the path to equality. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. And I am just going to jump right in, and I'm going to start with Ananda. Ananda, why is it important that we have more women's voices representing us?
First of all, hi, everybody. It's really nice to be here with you and to discuss a really important topic for us, right? Women representation is important because if we do not have women making laws, we won't have women taking action and power for their own lives. I think men made the laws until now, until recently. And if you go backwards, the history was made by them. And right now we have the possibility to make our own. So that's why women are needed in politics for me.
Thank you very much, Ananda. Laila, I'd like to hear from you. You're in the Netherlands. We have this idea that in the Netherlands, things are very close to what we believe is utopia. Could you share your view on the importance of having this multitude of different voices?
Thank you, Dani. Well, it's not a utopia, but we're getting close because since of this year, we finally got a female chair of the House of Representatives. Even better, she's a lesbian woman, and that's a new thing. And also for the first in history, we also have a trans woman in the House of Representatives. And they really make it their job to have more inclusion in politics, but also in the workplace. So I think it's very important that those people represent more female and also more inclusion in the House of Representatives.
Thank you, Laila. Uyoyo, I'd like to hear from you because we're talking about the importance of women's voices to represent us. And it's even hard to find news on non-binary people. Mm-hmm. What is your take on that?
Okay, first of all, thank you for inviting me to this discussion, and hello, everybody. So women in politics is actually like very important because women are part of the population, and non-binary people as well. They are part of the population, and we experience life very differently from men who have been, setting laws and policies that govern the country. So with women in power, there are increased chances of having public policies, laws, and more protective rights that mirror the lived experiences of women in the country. And for a country like Nigeria, where we have diverse tribes, religions, cultures, it's important that the way we experience life across board is reflected in politics. So I think that's why it's very important for women to be in power. We will get to the question of non-binary people like one day, I guess.
Thank you, Uyoyo. Mariam, you have just left your country after Kabul was invaded and taken. What do you have to say about the importance of women's voices representing us?
Actually, I just want to get back to 2000 here, because there was the Taliban, and Taliban controlled and managed and ruled on our country. Their women hadn't had any rights for education, for health, even for getting to a medical, for getting to schools. Even the children, those who were daughter or feminine, girls, little girls didn't have access to even to count numbers. So after 2000, that American came to Afghanistan to help us to take back our country. We just progressed and made our country a better place for women. And we had access to education, and we could have many politician women in our country, in the Senate of our country, in politicians. Even at the 2020 and 2021, at early months, we had really good environment in our country. We had hope. We had really worked hard for equality, because these are women that make the worlds, and even more than half the worlds. And these are women that give birth to the man and created these worlds. So how it is beautiful, how women can make this world more beautifuler, most beautiful and more beautiful than men, if they have more control over the world. So that's why I think it's really important that the women should be hit and managing this world through politicians, through other things, through technologies, through everything, because these are women that make our world. So
Yes.
So that
Thank
one
you.
now I am want to say that after this, that the women didn't have any rights in Afghanistan, the country became more darker and more darker. I just saw news that when a journalist asked the Taliban hate, and the Taliban representative for women rights asked them why women cannot be on politicians, why you didn't give a part for women in politics in your government, Emirat Islamic government. They say that women cannot do the things they want to do. Yes, and the women gave birth to those persons that makes women that they are not able, or they are not deserved to be considerate and to be powerful in this society that I was living. So
Yes.
I don't know how to represent my feeling now, because the women's just invaded in my country from all areas. And this is really dark and black feelings that I have in our country would face, and would be in the darkest age of the 21st century.
Well, Mariam, thank you so much. We are all so happy, and we feel blessed that you could make it out of there, and that you're here to share the story with us, but also your views on the world. It's so important. Thank you so much. And Mariam jumped to the next question. So she already told us what a huge difference it was when women were able to be in power, and what a difference it made on the lives of so many women and girls. And I'd like to ask Lila, if you have to think back and tell us a little bit about the biggest positive change regarding the rights of queer women and non-binary people in your country, what would you talk about? What could you share with us?
First of all, very important, of course, that the Netherlands was the first country who legalized same-sex marriage. That was now 20 years ago. In that time, some gay men were very known on television as comedians, and also the chair of the gay paper, it's called that way, fought for it, some politicians. And finally, in 2000, they passed a bill on it, and there was only 1/3 of the people that voted against it, but they were strong religious parties. So and 20 years ago, the first same-sex marriage was legalized, and there were 4 couples married at midnight. I think that was very important in our history. And now we're fighting for multiple parent situation, because you know how it's working, that some children have 5 or 4 parents, and many women in this country fight for those rights and get it legalized.
Thank you, Lila. I'm going to ask.
I got something. I'm so sorry.
Don't worry. This is a conversation.
Yes, I'm sorry. You also asked about the rights for non-binary people. And
yes,
this year we passed the bill. It's not officially approved yet, but that people have the possibility to change their passport into M for male, F for female, or the X. So that is very important here in this country. I know some other countries have already legalized it, but I hope this year it will be, the bill will be passed.
Well, of course, listening to that piece of news, we'll take it back to Uyoyo. Uyoyo, are there any news that you would like to share with us regarding the rights of queer women and non-binary people in your country? If so, please share with us. If not, tell us what your biggest dream is. What would be your first change?
Okay, so currently the only news is no news, meaning we are still, that's but when I say we, I mean the LGBTQ plus community is still criminalized by this shady and poorly worded law. And if you actually like break it down, it's called the SSMPA, which is the Same-Sex Marriage Prohibition Act. And if you actually like go into it in detail, you see that it criminalizes people of similar genders who just live together. It's poorly worded, and it's just a legal way to taunt the community in this country. So honestly, we haven't been able to like move past that up till now. So there's nothing positive or uplifting in terms of law regarding the community. And we are still fighting for gay rights. We haven't even crossed the line that is gender. I mean, trans people here are a bigger taboo. Like, people would recognize a gay person before they say, oh, this person is trans or non-binary. Like, so it's not even happening yet here. My dream for this country would be a country where the SSMPA doesn't exist. We have a president who is not our current president. I shall call no names. Google him. More women and queer people in politics that can, pass laws that actually help and represent the full population and not just one part of the population. That is my dream for this country. But Laila, I'm coming to Netherlands because it's like people have a better space for me there. So yeah, I'm running.
Thank you, Yo-Yo. Yeah, I think Laila has a list of people trying to, at least we say we're going to visit her. Ananda, can you please share with us, what do you believe was the biggest positive change regarding the rights of queer women and non-binary people in your country?
Well, for the past years, we have a lot of bills, actually precedents that were passed on and throughout the Supreme Court. And those rights, those precedents, even though they are not laws, we actually had to go to the Supreme Court actually to have a possibility to enter in any way and in the laws, right? As LGBTQ people, and right now, I think the biggest concern that we have is to maintain the possibility to be visible within the community, within the LGBTQ people, because we have some bills that are being discussed in the Congress that maybe they will, if they pass, if they go on, we won't be able to, have reproductive rights. So we have to be really attend all the time around that. But yeah, in Brazil, we got the possibility of civil marriage, and also the possibility of changing birth certificates and civil documents for transgender people without having like the necessity to prove that you are transgender. So just because you want to, it's self-explanatory, and this was really, really amazing. But in practice, it's not really easy. So we got the precedent. The practice is not really good, but still it's better than it was before. And of course, the criminalization of LGBTQ phobia brings gender in upfront, because we have a lot of murder of transgender women. Brazil is the country that most kills transgender people in the world, and transgender women in the most. So we have the possibility now to, prosecute those kind of violences. And also, we have a bill here called Maria da Penha, which is a gender-based law. And this law protects us as lesbians, as bisexuals, as transgender women, as non-binary people as well, within the domestic violence, right? So if you are in a situation that you have this violence going on your home, you have someone to ask and to protect you. But of course, the practice, the reality of it always undercuts with race and also with class. So people with upper classes have more possibilities to be protected than the other ones in the outskirts. And of course, Black women and people and women of color, they suffer more to have this protection than the other ones. So regarding the structural society that we have here in Brazil, we are well covered in laws and perspectives of protection, but then the culture is not the same. We have to change so much towards equality to be able to survive and have actually our rights respected.
Ananda, thank you so much. What's the highest chair a woman or non-binary person has occupied in your country?
Well, in Brazil, we had the possibility to have a president elected, a woman called Dilma Rousseff, but she was impeached. The reasons of her impeachment right now are really being questioned because she practiced some maneuvers that other men did before her, but they were not impeached. And because she was a woman in power and she was, dictating the executive power the way she wanted, and in the parliament she had like most men to be ruled with, and they didn't accept her ruling. They managed to get her impeached. For me, it's clear that her impeachment was a gender-based impeachment. It was not because she was not competent for that. It was not because she was making mistakes, even though her mandate is questionable as well. But it was mainly because of her gender, and that's we have like her and only her to mention in the executive and the highest post.
Okay, Ananda, before I take the same question to Lila, is there a queer woman or non-binary person for us to watch? Someone who is rising in the Brazil political scene that you think could make a good change, could make a positive change? Who would you recommend?
Well, we had a really wonderful, brilliant mind, which is Marielle Franco, and she was executed in 2018. I think if she would be alive, she would be like running fast to the president elections this year, eventually. But since she was interrupted, her life was interrupted. A lot of transgender Black women and a lot of lesbian women as well got elected in the past elections. So we have Erica Malonguinho in São Paulo. We have Erica Hilton as well, the transgender woman that got the most votes in São Paulo, which is the huge capital. So and they're both Black. Which is really nice because it sets up the representation we need. But we also have Mônica Benício, Marielle's widow, in Rio de Janeiro. We also have another lesbian girl here in the South, in Santa Catarina. So we have a lot of representatives that came up because of this rising and the need of having women in power. But I will definitely take a look and watch closely Erica Malonguinho and Erica Hilton and Robeilson Lima from your city, Dani. So
yes,
she is amazing.
Thank you very much. Lila, what is the highest chair a woman or a non-binary person has occupied in your country, and who should we be watching for? Who can make a positive change?
At this moment, it's the chair of the House of Representatives. It's a lesbian woman, which is great, of course. We have like 150 people representing the House, and like 39 of them are women. Also, a few Black women have entered now, which is unusual. We have lots of small parties, lots of little voices. What we hoped for this year, that we would have an elected prime minister as a woman, but so far we are not. Hopefully within the next 3 years, probably Ms. Kaag from a huge party will be elected. At this moment, she's not that popular, but you never know what's going to happen. So fingers crossed that with the next election, we will have a female prime minister. I think the chances are really good. So maybe I will be elected. No, just kidding.
Fingers crossed with you. Mariam, do you know what the highest chair occupied by a woman was in Afghanistan? You're muted, I'm sorry.
Actually, I don't know about how many, but I can say the percentage about 18. About 18 or 15 women were at the Senate and taking chairs, and representative women, women of the all provinces of my country, and they were very powerful in terms of being in government and getting decisions on the side of politicians. And there were about 5% women that were getting share on the government agenda, that who worked for our people. 5%, which is really low.
I'm gonna go out and say that the voice to watch is Mariam Amal, but who else? Who else do you think can make a positive change speaking for women from Afghanistan?
Sorry, I couldn't get your question. Can you just repeat it?
Yes, of course, don't worry. Is there any woman, queer woman, or non-binary person from Afghanistan that you like to follow, for example, on social media, that you think they have a voice that we should all be listening to? I'm saying the voice can be Mariam Amal, but I want to know who you are following. Who are you listening to?
Actually, there is no women I would follow in my country, but I am strongly believe that there are very strong women that want to defend the human rights for women in my country, in my Kabul, which is my city. And there's no woman, but of course there is a woman that's where they devoted her whole life for education, for making girls into education sectors and all sectors that women should be educated, and they just supported many women to be educated from very from the towns, from the villages, who especially they were supporting women in areas of Afghanistan that didn't access to education. And they were just hope for women to get education, which is, her name is Mitra Mehran, and she's very activist in terms of politicians, also in terms of being advisor for education, and she's my role model. But there's no queer woman in my country that I follow or have.
Thank you so much, Mariam. Uyoyo, what are you thinking? What is the highest chair occupied by a woman, queer woman, or non-binary person in your country? And what's the voice we should all be listening to?
I'm laughing because, like I said before, queer people are, I mean, We are threatened at the grassroots level, not talking of going into politics. You will be walking around with a target on your back. But the highest position or chair occupied by a woman in the country right now would be the senatorial position and that's at the federal level. So that's the highest. I mean, we have deputy governors in some states that are women, but if you are ranking it, it's like if there's a federal event, they would regard a senator before they regard like a deputy governor, as opposed to if it was at the state level, where the deputy governor would be recognized before the senator, that kind of a thing. And as for queer people, not going to lie, I do not know any queer person who is actively involved in politics, because politics here is very dirty, very dangerous, and we are still like fighting for our basic right to live, you know, before we even talk about like things like marriage and having children and health rights and stuff like that. So I think politics for the community here is still very is still like further down the road. But there are people who are taking active steps to like fight for the community. One person who off the top of my head comes to mind is Olutimehin Olukokoyi, if I got her surname right. She's a writer and activist. She is doing a fantastic job by just, you know, being out there. There are people like Arit and Pamela, and there's so many who are just taking steps daily to represent the community, but not at the political level. Yeah.
Well, still, it's good to listen to so many names, and I think I learned a while ago that politics doesn't necessarily involve getting elected to begin with. So thank you so much for sharing. We've been here together for half an hour, but I don't want to let anyone go without one last question. And then if anyone here sitting together with us around this round table wants to ask anything or wants to share any information or thought on what we've been talking about, please just raise your hands. But for now, I'll start with Ananda. Ananda, what words of wisdom or what message would you most want to instill in girls and young women today?
Well, I would say self-knowledge. Really know yourself and know what you wish for and what you want. Of course, dream big and you know, go for it. But really, like, try to acknowledge how this crazy path, which is life, can be more beautiful with you in it, with you secured in it. So self-knowledge helps us a lot on that, because we pave a way a little bit more healthy. We don't hurt ourselves in the way. So try to know yourself the most, sexually, intellectually, in all the ways possible, because then the sky is the limit.
Thank you, Ananda. Lila, can you follow that, please?
No, there's only one, Ananda. So, wow, I loved your saying. But I will say, educate yourself, raise your voice, and please reach out. In this time and age where social media plays a big, important role in everyone's life, doesn't matter where you come from, reach out. Here in the Netherlands, we have lots of organizations you can turn to. Just open your mouth, ask for information, educate yourself, and most of all, don't be afraid.
Mariam, what words would you like to put in the heads of young girls and women?
Thanks for this really good question. I just want to add to women that are at my age or younger, to be yourself. Actually, I came from a community or society that I had to be the things that other people wants me. But I just choose to be myself and what is my identity, who I am. And this is the thing that everyone lives for. This is our purpose, to be ourselves, our identity that we are came from with that in this world. So first of all, I wanna tell everyone that you should be yourself. You should hear to yourself and inside in your conscience, and never give up on your dreams. Go after whatever you like and be whatever you like to be. And there's no impossible in life. You should make all the things you want for your life, and be hopeful, ask for help, and just don't give up on dreams, and make working on the things that you want in your life and that you want for yourself, and what you wanna be in your life for the future, for the present situation, present time. You should be all yourself and live the life that makes you happy, makes you healthier, and makes you laugh, and be yourself.
Thank you, Mariam. Uyoyo, what words of wisdom or message would you like to instill in the minds of young Uyoyos?
As someone who was assigned female at birth and raised as a girl, for others like me or other non-binary trans people out there, I will say, ask questions, ask a lot of questions. It's really the way out. I was afraid to ask so many questions for the longest time until everything just came crashing down, and I had no other option than to rebuild from scratch and learn who I really am. So ask questions. Do not, I know it's a very dangerous climate here for our community, but we have to show up for ourselves, for the community. So someone needs to show up. So don't be afraid to show up, because when you raise your voice, someone else is going to see you and be inspired by that and join their voice with yours. And from two people, you have a whole army. So that's just what I'm going to say. Ask questions and show up.
Thank you so much, everyone, for being here, for sharing this roundtable with us. Our biggest strength is the powerhouse we become when we come together. We are many countries, many voices, many lives, one community. Ella Roundtable will happen again in 2 weeks. Check our events tab. See you then.